in a quiet village surrounded by hills and trees, there lived a man named Suraj. He was known for one thing: complaining. From the moment he woke up until the time he went to sleep, Suraj always found something wrong with life. If the sun was shining, it was too hot. If it rained, it was too wet. If he earned money, it was never enough. He believed the world was unfair, that life had given him the worst hand, and that others had it easier. People around him stopped listening after a while. They would nod politely and walk away. Even his family grew tired of his endless negativity. His wife would often say, "Suraj, you have eyes, hands, feet, food, and a home. There are people with far less who smile more than you." But Suraj would shake his head and reply, "You don't understand. You don't know what it feels like to be me." One day, as he sat outside his house complaining about the rising cost of vegetables, an old traveler passed by. The traveler had a long beard, a staff in hand, and eyes that looked like they had seen 1,000 stories. He paused and asked Suraj, "Why are you so upset, my friend?" Suraj sighed heavily and said, "Because life is unfair. I work hard, but I'm always tired. I never have enough money. People don't respect me. I see others living better lives, smiling, traveling, enjoying themselves, and here I am, stuck in the same place, with nothing changing." The old man listened quietly. Then he said, "Come with me. I want to show you something." Suraj hesitated. "Where?" The traveler smiled. "Just trust me. 1 hour. That's all I ask." Something about the old man's calm voice made Suraj stand up. He followed him through the winding paths of the village into the nearby forest. They walked in silence until they reached a small clearing where a boy sat under a tree. He looked about 20 years old, and he was carving something into a piece of wood. Suraj looked around. This is what you brought me to see." The traveler nodded. "Watch." The boy smiled and greeted them. Suraj noticed the boy's legs were thin, too thin. Then he realized the boy had no feet. He was sitting on a small wooden board with wheels, using his hands to move around, yet his face was glowing with joy. The traveler asked the boy, "How's your day?" The boy laughed and said, "Wonderful. I finally finished carving my first bird. Want to see?" He held up a wooden bird, carved with care and love. Suraj was silent. The boy asked him, "Do you want to try?" Suraj shook his head, confused. How do you stay so happy?" The boy looked at him and said, "Because I'm alive. I can still create. I can still laugh. I lost my legs when I was 8. An accident. For a long time, I cried every day. I was angry, bitter, just like you. But one day, I asked myself, what's left? And I realized my hands, my heart, my mind, I still had those. So I started using them." Suraj looked down at his own feet. Strong, healthy. He felt something shift inside. The traveler led him away, deeper into the forest, to a small hut. Inside was a girl, sitting by a window, humming softly. She was sewing something. When she turned around, Suraj saw that her eyes were cloudy. She was blind. "Namaste," she said kindly. "I heard your footsteps." The traveler smiled. "This is Meera. She lost her sight as a child, but she makes the most beautiful clothes in the village." Suraj stared in disbelief. "You sew? And you're blind?" Meera smiled. "Yes, my mother taught me how to feel the fabric, how to thread the needle with touch, not sight. I made a choice. Either I sit in darkness and cry, or I make something out of it. So I chose to sow light into other people's lives." Suraj felt a lump in his throat. He couldn't speak. He thought about all the times he had complained about his life, while this girl, who couldn't see, had learned to create beauty without ever laying eyes on it. As they walked back toward the village, Suraj finally asked the traveler, "Why did you show me these people?" The traveler looked at him and said gently, "Because you believe life has been unfair to you. But the truth is, life tests everyone. Some lose what they love. Some are born without what others take for granted. But what separates them is not what life gave them, but what they chose to do with it." Suraj lowered his head. "I've been blind in a different way." The traveler nodded. "Exactly. You see, complaining is easy, but gratitude that takes strength, and it changes everything." When Suraj returned home, everything looked the same, but he had changed. That night, he sat with his wife and listened instead of complaining. He helped his son with homework. He stepped outside and noticed the stars for the first time in years. The next morning, instead of grumbling, he said, "Thank you for this day." His wife looked at him in surprise. He smiled and said, "I met people yesterday who had less, but lived more. I've been wasting my days. Over time, people noticed the change. Suraj still had problems. Life didn't magically become perfect, but he stopped focusing on what was missing and started appreciating what was there. And slowly, the weight he had carried for years began to lift. He learned that happiness doesn't come from getting more, it comes from seeing clearly what you already have. And peace is not the absence of problems, but the presence of perspective. So the next time you feel like complaining about life, remember this: someone with less is doing more, smiling brighter and living fuller. Not because their life is easier, but because they chose to see the light in the dark. Don't complain about life until you hear their stories. Or better yet, until you live with the kind of strength they show every single day. Because sometimes, life doesn't need to change, you do.